Hey there everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another video. In this video, I'm doing another socially distant development update. This one is going to be one of the final builds until next week's release. It's been a week since the previous Insider build has launched. The next release is going to fix a lot of bugs in that build, and it's going to add a few new features, and it's going to have Mac OS and Linux support, which is kinda cool, even though I haven't really tested them. It's up to you guys to test them as insiders. And by the way, if you're not an insider yet, go ahead and join the forums and join the insiders group. There's going to be a link in the description below. It's totally free to enter. Up to 25 members can enter the insider group, and then I will not allow anyone else to enter. Insiders are... it's not really a glamorous role. It's just so you can test these really early on builds if you really want to, without having to compile the game. So if you're interested in joining, go ahead, it's in the description. But anyway, this next build fixes a lot of bugs, it adds a few new features, and this build that you're seeing right now might not be the one that you see in next week's Insider release. That's because, and huge shout out to my friend Rahilu here, really sorry if I butchered your name, but he is doing some graphic design work behind the scenes as I record this for the game, and he's doing a logo and a default wallpaper for Gateway OS, which is really freaking awesome. It was a really good deal. I'm so unbelievably happy with his service, so if you're interested, I will have his website in the description below so you can check some of his work out and maybe get in touch if you need to. But anyway, I'm gonna get started with this build. There's a lot of things I want to show you guys, so let's get right into it. So this is the new main menu, and this is not the final design. There's gonna be some of Rahilu's work in this menu pretty soon, but right now this is what it looks like. It's a lot different than what I showed in the previous video. But if you've already played the earlier Insider build, then you've seen this menu before. It's nothing really new, but there have been some bug fixes with it. For one, the continue button is grayed out whenever you don't have a save file, but since I have a save file, it is not grayed out. But if you end up in this menu and you want to get out of the continue menu, there's now a back button, which was not there previously. The next feature that's missing in the menu is the skins button, but that's going to come in a later build, probably in Insider build 3, so that'll be a way to load user-created skins whenever those start to exist. Hopefully they exist soon. I'm gonna make some of my own. But settings has gotten a lot of facelifting done. It still needs some work, but the screen resolution menu has been slightly altered. You can now no longer go below 1024 by 768 due to the GUI scaler and some issues with it. But that's just a hack for now. Eventually I'm gonna fix the GUI scaler and make things a little better. As far as other settings you can access, there is now a full screen mode box here, which this is a new GUI element, the combo box I'm working on. The combo box is a little buggy right now, but for the most part it does work, and this window mode allows you to go between windowed, full screen, and borderless. I'm not gonna mess with it because when my laptop is docked like it is, so I can record, it kind of freaks out when I go into borderless full screen mode, and it's a huge mess, so, yuck. Enable VSync. I'm not really sure if it's VSync that it's enabling, but what this does do is similar to VSync in that it'll try to keep your frame rate consistent. Because I'm recording on my monitor through OBS on my docking station right now, I'm getting consistent 60 frames per second, but you can see it does dip a little, and it does go a little bit above 60 because my laptop is pretty damn fast. And, I mean, the engine itself, the pandemic framework that this is written in, isn't overly optimized right now, but still, it's getting some decent frame rates, but it is fluctuating, so enable VSync will, well, if I hit apply, it will lock the frame rate at 60, because that's my native monitor refresh rate. It's gonna try to keep you in that refresh rate, and I'm just gonna exit out of full screen there, and then that fixes the window. That's an issue with the pandemic framework, and it's kind of annoying, but there's nothing I can really do about it. But user interface, under here we've got a GUI scale, which I'm not going to mess with other than putting it up to 125%. There we go. That makes things bigger on screen. And dark mode, you uncheck that, and obviously it'll give you light mode. I'm going to apply changes again, make things big, go in full screen and out of full screen, and that'll fix the window. But in the About section, it shows you the name of the game, who developed it, aka me, and it gives you a version identifier, and this is build 1.0.7528.35833 debug. I believe this is a similar version string to the previous build that I released, but there's a lot different. I don't know how .NET determines its build numbers, but whatever. Anyway, below that you get some useful buttons. You get a credits button, which tells you a lot about my inspiration of the game, as well as it tells you that Rahilu created the graphic design that is not yet in this build, but eventually will be, and then some other people who have worked on the game and some other things that I've used. That's all in here. You can close out of that. The source code link brings you to the GitHub page, and the open game data files is sort of like the view local files in Steam, kind of, not really, but this button will take you to the game's save data files. So if I open that up, it takes me into Explorer, and we can see that there's the crashes folder, and there's a lot. That's what happens when you're the developer and you mess something up. It crashes, and it saves a log. But then there's the saves.
I didn't expect anyone to see this, god damn it.
But yes, the save files are all .sars, going in the whole theme of this being a pandemic-related game. Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that, but nobody's complained, so I'm gonna keep it that way. And then, of course, there's screenshots, which there's been some bug fixes with screenshots, but this is how they work. They all come on here, and if you press F2, you'll save one. And then there's the settings.json, which is the underlying JSON of this settings screen. So that's all that does. Let's get out of the menu and go into the game. So, in Gateway OS, there's been a lot that's changed. First of all, there's a power button, which was not there before. There's a settings button, which was not there before. Both these buttons are very useful. As you can see, we can get to the settings menu and we can exit the game now. The feed user interface has been fixed quite a lot, but I still have some things to do with it. It's not finished. Panels in Gateway OS now have titles and icons, which they did not before. There's no longer an active programs panel when there are no programs open, which is kind of handy. Now you can see the wallpaper, and eventually you'll be able to see Rahilu's awesome graphic design work whenever that gets added to the game, but right now you get to see a solid blue square, and the terminal has been heavily optimized and worked on. Text rendering in the game has been redone as well, with a lot of fixes to word wrapping as well as general text rendering itself. Now the game is using Sprite Font Plus behind the scene, except it's using my own fork of Sprite Font Plus, which fixes a few graphical issues with it. But nonetheless, let's continue. The terminal now has zooming support, which it did not have before. You can go up to 4 times the zoom, because at that point, there's really no point. And as you can see, thanks to Sprite Font Plus, everything scales perfectly fine. As far as new commands go, I'm not going to show all of them, but I'm going to run through all the ones that are in help that are new. Alias allows you to create command aliases that are special commands that basically run other commands. You can specify arguments in them, and it's a pretty handy feature. This was never in PeaceNet, but now it's in Socially Distant. CD, of course, allows you to change the current directory. CP allows you to copy files in folders, and in that context, folder copying has been added in this build, which was not in the builds beforehand. Cowsay lets you make a cow say something. RM lets you delete a file or a folder. Echo allows you to print text to the console. Fortune allows you to open a Fortune cookie and display the message on the console. Help is displaying the menu we're reading right now. LS lists the current directory. mkdir allows you to make a directory. MV allows you to move a file or a folder. PWD lets you print the current working directory. Cat allows you to read the contents of a text file and display it in the terminal. Shutdown lets you exit the game. And write is a debug command that will be removed in a future build, but will allow you to write text to a file. The write command is made obsolete because I have added some new programs to the game, namely edit, which is a basic multi-line text editor with line numbers. It has word wrapping, but it's broken in this build and I have to fix it. But this allows you to create a new document with the new button. You can open a document, and you can save a document. With that said, file dialogues have been added in this build, allowing you to select files to either be opened or saved to by an application. This is similar to the user interface both in HIFOS 1.0 and in PeaceNet, but it's written in monogame, of course. Another application that's been added has been the Browse application, which is a full-on file browser. Now, there's still a lot of features missing. The not yet implemented section is a place for common places, such as your home directory, your documents folder, downloads, music, and whatever else is in your home folder. As well as other devices you're connected to, they'll be displayed here as well. But for now, that's not yet implemented. You can double-click a directory to access it, and as you can see in the bin directory, all of your commands are here. If you open one of these files, you'll get an editor UI that shows a lot of garbage. Fun fact, this is actually ELF binary data. I got this idea from Fathom or Viperidae in Bits and Bytes, who gave me the idea to generate random convincing ELF binary data. And if you don't know what an ELF file is, think Linux. That's the format used for Linux programs and their binaries, and probably their shared libraries as well. But nonetheless, the game will actually display ELF data for each program. With that said, you can actually run programs from files. For example, if I want to run the rm command, I can reference it with /bin/rm. And it'll work just like it would in real life. The only difference here is that I messed up some arguments and it's kind of broken. But that's not my fault in this video, that's just my game being weird. Anyway, in /usr/bin, there are the program files for the programs that we've just looked at. Test program is a simple hello world window, and it just demos that the GUI system is in fact working. A new feature in this build with the status bar, and a new bug that I'm sure is obvious if you're looking at the screen, but a new feature is that there are now window switcher icons which allow you to switch between your open programs. The active program will be highlighted and will of course be the one on your screen. I eventually plan to add support for splitting the active program area in half to have two programs side by side, and I plan to do the same for terminal, but for now that's not yet implemented. The developer console has been fixed. Whenever the developer console crashed previously, it would require a restart of the game to get it back into running, but now it works fine. Player.postFeed used to crash the game sometimes, or at least cause an error in the dev console. That has been fixed. Numerous fixes have been made to the various GUI elements, such as the dock panel and the stack panel, to make text layout a little bit better in the feed panel. There have been some spacing issues and some clipping issues that have been fixed in this build. I can demo this by doing player.postFeed and then posting a bunch of equal signs, enough that it wraps the terminal. Although there are still some spacing bugs, it's a lot better than it used to be, with a lot less space being taken up by nothing. If you count a binary file, you will also get the Unix ELF binary data. Piping has been added to the game. I'm sure most of you Linux lovers will really love what I'm about to do. I guess I should be heading to the bank next Tuesday. I'll do that after I release this build. Redirection has been added to the game, and a number of fixes have been made to it since the previous Insider build. Appending to a file no longer breaks the game or overwrites the file contents. It will behave as I intended and will, in fact, append text to the end of the file. Redirection in the other direction works as well. You can input a file into a command and it will be read in as if you were piping it in. Cowsay has been fixed a lot. It now wraps at 75 characters, and there are a lot less white space issues and wrapping bugs. The ability to copy folders has been added to the game, except that you cannot copy binary folders, or any folders with protected files in them. For example, cp/bin test will not work. It's a read-only directory. However, cp/etc/ect will work. All of the file data copied over to a directory will be independent of the former directory's contents. For example, /etc/hostname is not the same file as /ect/hostname. If you try to cat a binary file and write it to another file to bypass the fact that you cannot copy a binary file, the game will no longer allow you to run that copied file. As you can see, it sees ./rm.bin as not an executable despite it having the same ELF data as the original RM file. While you can still run RM, rm.bin is not runnable because of how the save file works and a limitation with how the game determines what's executable and not. This data stored inside the save file is not carried over whenever you cat a file into a new file. This is a limitation with the game's engine and will not be fixed. While we did discuss ways of possibly fixing it using MD5 hashes, or SHA-1 hashes, or some way of hashing the binary data to determine if it's the same as an existing command, I've decided that that's not worth it, since rm.bin is a little harder to type than just rm, and there's no conceivable reason why you would need to pull these files out of the bin directory anyway. With that said, a lot of bugs have been fixed with the rm command itself. You can no longer delete the USR directory, which previously you could. It shows up as read-only. This is because of /usr/bin, which has read-only files in it. You cannot delete the parent of a read-only directory. But you can delete a directory inside the USR directory that's not being used by anything. However, I wouldn't, because /usr/share is where Rahilu's glorious graphic design is going to be stored, and thus it will be protected because of how the game works. Aliases, of course, work in the game now. You can create an alias using the alias command. I'm going to call this ch. The first argument is the name of the alias. The second argument needs to be in quotes, and is the full command that you want to run. In this case, whenever I run ch, I will get a cowsay that says hello. In this build, you can also add arguments to your macros. For example, if a command needs some data that you don't know right away in the macro. For example, I can make the cowsay say whatever I want. Now, if I enter someone's name, the cow will now say hello David. This is a very powerful feature, even though it doesn't have really many uses in this build. I imagine people will find uses for it in the base game whenever it's released. Similarly, you can use these placeholders for command names and file names whenever redirecting. For example, now, if I run cf and the name of a file, it will output whatever cowsay says into that file. Victor Tran approves. Anyway, that concludes all of the fixes and features in this build. I really hope you guys enjoy it, and I really hope that you guys have fun whenever the game is fully released. I realize that it's a very early version right now, and there's not really a lot to show off, but I really do enjoy making these videos and editing them, and I really enjoy what you guys think and what you guys have to say every time I release an insider build, or even just a new commit and you guys decide to compile the game. So please, if you enjoy the concept of Socially Distant, please keep following development, as I intend to complete this game unlike PeaceNet and ShiftOS. I will be working on this game over the next few years, even if it takes me a full AAA development cycle to do. I will be working on it throughout college, even during class, whenever I don't have work to do. This is, for all intents and purposes, my life's work, so I'm really excited. Anyway, once again, if you're not an insider yet, there's still a few more slots left. If you want to get access to these builds and get some sway as far as the development of the game goes, then go ahead and join the forums and go to the insiders group and submit a membership request. As soon as I see it, I will allow you in, as long as the group is under 25 members. If you guys enjoy my content, then please leave a like, or leave a dislike if you particularly dislike it. If you really want to see more, then I suggest hitting the subscribe button so that you get notified whenever I release a new video. It doesn't happen often, so it's handy to have the notification in case you do miss it. I don't make videos often because of the heat in Canada right now, and the fact that there's not really a lot for me to work on as far as videos compared to programming. That takes up a lot of my time, but whenever I do make them, I try to put as much effort into them as I can nowadays. So hopefully, there's something that you guys will like. Anyway, I've been Michael. Thanks so much for watching, and remember to check out Rahilu and his website in the video description below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Solution to our problem.